on our page saying evening all. I hope that somebody been listening to us here. Hey, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello, everybody. So Chuck Kuck, Aaron Hall, Greg Siskind. I'm going to flip this around so you can see us better instead of like a police lineup of all this stuff. What another crazy day. Of course, not part of this call, because it's not a litigation update, is that Biden's introducing TPS for Venezuelans.
I made a software app. I will be debuting my expert system tonight on TPS for Venezuela, and I'm just waiting on somebody in the office to help me with the translation, so I can have a Spanish version out tonight also.
That's awesome. We've been working on our stuff. Great news, actually. So we're super excited about that. Congrats to Venezuelans who may be listening. If you're in the United States, as of today, you can apply for TPS tomorrow. And don't apply for DED. Why would anybody apply for DED? What a waste of money.
Yeah, I'm not even putting that in my app.
No. You know what happened is a lot of people applied. They were defrauded by these lawyers. Oh, you can apply now. So now they can say, well, my lawyer filed for me. I said, great. Now you have nothing. Congratulations. Now you still have to file for TPS. So, all right. Today, since Jeff's not on the call yet, hopefully he'll be on shortly. Aaron, tell us what happened in Anunciato today. People may not realize that there's a couple filings today in Anunciato.
Yeah, they're both still not docketed yet, but we have due tomorrow. We have our reply to the government's opposition to adding a mandamus and an unreasonable delay claim. But we're going to be ready to file that today. We're not going to need to wait for tomorrow. It's been interesting because Chuck was saying before we went live with the call here, it's just very apparent that the government is desperate to get rid of this case. And so they have tried to do this really kind of egregious move where they've done all the delay in responding to the amended complaint that has the unreasonable delay claims. They've delayed for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And then once the proclamations get lifted, they say, hey, this whole thing's moot. Let's get rid of it, Judge, without acknowledging that the claims that are not moot have been pending for a long time. And so, the judge is the judge, so I can't say for sure what he's going to do, but I don't think he's going to like their maneuvering here or see it as good faith. So that's the one thing. The second thing is that the judge ordered a status report, which is due today. The government is actually just sent their draft update to the status report, and because they just sent it, I haven't even read it yet. So I'm going to let Chuck.
I read it. I mean, basically, it's the same thing they're saying on trying to get rid of the case. Is Judge, the case is gone. The proclamation is gone.
Why don't you say what the point of a status report is in this case?
Oh, it's a joint status report, so it's to give the judge an update about where we are. Usually status reports are done in the context of a settlement. Hey, we're talking about this, Judge, talking about government has no interest in settling this case. They used their portion of the 5 pages the judge gave us to basically reiterate all their arguments that they put in their letters that they sent. She may have spent 5 minutes on this, just copying and pasting stuff from before. It's a joke. I think the judge will go, because we gave a good faith interpretation of each of the issues. So let's walk through those. All right, Aaron? Yeah. First, let's start with the easy one, DV 2020. The class of people, the plaintiffs that were DV 2020, that's done. That's gone. All right? Presumably, all of you Anunciato plaintiffs that were in DV 2020, I presume you got your butt on an airplane and got here. All right? So, because you're going to be dismissed out of this case. You're done. We accomplished the purpose. All right? Next is family-based cases. Now, keep in mind, we have the individuals and we have a class. The family-based class action is gone. I mean, we basically admit that because the class is a shared characteristic. In this context, it was the claim that everybody was barred from coming, which is why the mandamus action and DEC actions are important for the individuals. I'd say, so we said, Judge, it's still important. Every case is a little bit different, but, family cases, we're going to leave up to you. But the class for that's probably gone. On the employment side, we have very few employment plaintiffs, 5 or 6 or 10 or something like that. Same thing. I mean, those are now individual cases. The class part of that is gone because it was about not issuing visas. Now, they're still not issuing visas, but they're using a different rationale, which is not part of this complaint. But the individual delays for the plaintiffs are still in the complaint, in our second amended complaint. And then finally, the big kahuna is the Anunciato DV plaintiffs. You know, all the people complaining that we want justice, Joe, don't forget about us. First of all, we haven't, and you'll see that in our status report. But the class in that is important in this context. We have plaintiffs that have numbers ranging from very low numbers that have been current for months to people with very high numbers. So we have to preserve all 55,000 of these numbers so that we give everybody a chance. You don't get to cut the line because you're a plaintiff. Because you're a plaintiff, when your place comes in the line, you get to go early, all right? But you don't get to cut. That's never been the case. That's not how lines work for immigration. I'm sorry for, would you guys excuse me a second? This is just driving me crazy.
I'll pick up for Chuck while he's, I think, shutting the blinds there. He's got too much glare. Yeah, I mean, back to the family and employment-based for a second. What that means is that we pretty much are going to agree that class treatment of those family and employment-based cases is probably not appropriate because the analysis is too fact-specific for a mandamus or unreasonable delay case. What does that mean for all the people who are asking us all the time, what about the plaintiffs? What about the plaintiffs? What about the plaintiffs? It means that we're only asking that they get you your visas or adjudicate your visa applications. And we will be very, very happy if they want to avoid this litigation, if they just get you in for an interview and issue your visas, and we can move to voluntarily dismiss you from the case. So that's what we're doing with the employment-based and family-based, and also the DV 2021 people who are current under the visa bulletin.
Yeah. So the DV 2021, we need the 55,000 to protect everybody. But plaintiffs are going to be the first in line if we're successful in doing that. And I think we've got a great claim for that. Because the thing, and I made this point when I had an argument with Judge Seaborg, we filed in November and not July for a reason. We needed the Department of State on notice that they had to be interviewing people. And they have literally chosen, even though they lost the Gomez case, they have chosen not to interview these people. So they have created the problem. This is what gets us that ability to get those appointments. And now, of course, we're going to tell the judge, as far as we can tell, Judge, the ban's been gone for 3 weeks. This will be next Monday night. By the way, it's at 6 o'clock at night Eastern time, so it will take the place of our Facebook, of our YouTube live, because the argument is at 3 p.m. California time, right? So it's at 6 o'clock. So I can't. And that's going to be on Zoom. You'll be able to watch that. We'll put the link out there, but we will not have an update here. We might have to move it to a different night. Or I guess we could do it later. We could do it at 7. Not that we'll be, or whenever we get done with that status report. But we want him to know that they have caused the problem that now exists. And as far as we know, for 3 weeks that they've been allowed to do it, they haven't interviewed a damn person. They haven't interviewed anybody that we're aware of. We know that in some consulates, they're saying we're closed. And these are consulates that people have no other choice but to go to them. We're closed. Sorry very much. They haven't made accommodation. All the stuff that they were required to do in Gomez, they know they're supposed to do, they are not doing. We will hold them accountable for this. That's why it's so important. So there you go. All right. Whew, that's Anunciato. I feel much better already.
Before we move on from Anunciato, Chuck.
Yes.
What are we doing about the regional band people who are not getting scheduled now that PP 10014 is lifted, but there's still regional bans in place?
We need to have a little talk with the judge about that. Because, and I can't remember if the complaints mention the other bans or not. Aaron, you'll have to remind me of that. I'm not sure they do because we were so focused on the regular bans that we needed to get rid of that. And because it was unclear at the time that they were, according to what the press secretary, the acting secretary for consular affairs said a week ago, these are not visa bans. They're just entry bans. So they can go, but they're acting as if they're visa bans at the consulate that the person has to go to.
Gun.
Yeah, so it's just the doublespeak, the Orwellian doublespeak, which is a phrase I will likely use with the judge, is astounding in this case.
Yeah. So we will need to bring this up with the judge, like Chuck says. I'll say that it's not something that we specifically asked to be struck down, those regional bans in the pleadings months ago. On the other hand, we are asking the judge to find that there's an unreasonable or unlawful delay here, and we're going to say, yeah, there's an unreasonable delay, and it's because of these bans, and you can rule it unlawful.
But we indirectly address this in our complaint by asking the judge to rule that 212F does not allow them to not issue visas. And that I don't think we have to say it's in any context.
Right. I mean, if they just decided to lift the ban, let one day go, and then reimpose an immigrant visa ban the next day, that new ban wouldn't be in there, but it would still be covered by the complaint.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter if they're travel bans or if it's a new immigrant ban.
Yeah, because we're not going to strike down the entry ban. They have a legitimate reason, I think, for the entry ban. All right, we're not going to convince a judge that COVID is a bad reason to deny people entry or make them go 14 days.
And he doesn't have to.
No, they just issue the visa and people will figure it out.
Right.
And by the way, Judge, just so that you know, as a piece of information, the Secretary of State waived the ban in the Schengen areas for all the DV people. So there's no reason they can't do the same thing here for DV 2020. Right. So that's Anunciato. Whew. All right, Milligan. So, Aaron, I'm going to call on you again to work with us here in Milligan. What's the status that you know of? Jeff is having the contact with Joe Carilli, but kind of give us an update as you know it.
Yeah, I mean, beyond the great news that round 3 was all added as plaintiffs, so we're very happy about that. As far as the individual communications about the cases moving, I haven't seen that, so we'll have to get that update to you through Jeff and his communications with the government counsel.
Yeah, and we have a lot of questions that we'll answer when we're done here about that. And it's not surprising to me. I haven't seen any cable. Now, cable is a thing that Department of State, D.C., sends out to the consulates with instructions. So it's called a cable. You would call it an email, right? But they call it a cable because they used to literally be by cables. I haven't seen anything saying, hey, there's more plaintiffs. You got, treat them like you treat everybody else. I haven't seen anything about that. Now,
I do have some news because I'm the one who's seeing all the updates that are coming in from people. So we know that they have that you are known now to the consulates. They can check and make sure that you are in the case. So as some of you know, we didn't have a redacted version to send out of the document that you guys were in there. You don't need that now because they're going to verify you anyway. And we know that. So some of the consulates have outright said, we checked you're in. Some of the consulates have actually started issuing appointments to round 3 people today. Yeah. We've heard from a few in China, somebody in Iceland. I mean, they're coming from different countries. So that's really fast. I think it's faster than, like round 2 wasn't that fast that we started seeing appointments that quickly after this. So I'm really excited about that. And we, so obviously we know the problem consulates are still the problem consulates. We know, we know that London and Rio, for example, are, and Johannesburg are giving strange replies to your emails. So we know about that. For round 2, we still are dealing with Manila in particular as a problem. So we're well aware of which consulates are not complying with the order or just slowly complying with the order, because London and Rio have been at the end of the day, they're sort of our good one week and not so good the next on there. But I can tell you that that round 3, they know about you guys and they have started issuing appointments in some of the consulates.
So there we go. All right. And I think it's a little too early to say things like we don't know what the consulate's doing or they're not going to honor Milligan. The judge, we're going to have, I think we have a status report that's coming up again in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. The judge will not be happy to learn that consulates, Schengen consulates are ignoring him or banned countries are ignoring him. He will not be happy about that. Also, keep in mind, we're not going to, the plan right now is not to do a round 4. All right. We don't need to keep adding hundreds of plaintiffs to the case when a simple request to the judge, if he honors it, will resolve the case for everybody. And so Jeff is putting together a motion to the judge, as Jeff talked about last week, to clarify his order that it applies to everyone, plaintiffs and non-plaintiffs.
Well, that solves one problem,
right,
which is the ban being used as an excuse not to issue visas. We still know that a lot of people are delayed, and that's going to continue afterwards. So our strategy going forward is going to be focusing on cases dealing with delay if we're successful in getting the ban struck down as a bar on issuing visas.
Right, because then it becomes easy to do a mandamus claim. It gets been pending a year. I had a woman actually call me today from London, her and her husband, her and her fiance, and she actually had a visa issued last March and couldn't get here before COVID. And so her visa expired in June. And they literally aren't calling her back. She's not a plaintiff, all right? Literally not calling back. And this is literally a new medical exam, a drop off your passport, and issue the visa. There are no appointments necessary for this. That's the sun shining across my middle of my face, everybody. And I don't like have a line across my face. This is not my new. That's not my new stash. There we go. So, for them, the answer is an individual mandamus. We're literally going to file an individual mandamus in Washington, D.C. We're gonna tell them that Milligan's a related case, and we are going to probably get assigned to Judge Boasberg. He's going to, what the heck's going on? Reissue the visa. And we'll probably get that within 60 days of filing. They're just going to issue the visa. But we know, Greg, from the numbers that State announced last week, that they're sitting on 350,000 family-based cases, not including fiancés, which my guess, they're probably sitting on 10, 20, 30, 40,000 at once.
Right. We know there's 470,000 cases that are stuck at the NVC right now.
So it's an insane situation. And all they have to do to get out of the mandamus, this is simple, is reprioritize according to their own regulations how K-1s are treated, which they refuse to do for some. I don't know why they want to ignore this. Because they can much more easily say then, well, Judge, look, which they always do, proportionally, blah, blah, blah. But if you're treating them as IRs and CRs of spouses of U.S. citizens, say, Judge, we're only processing 20%. Well, then it's a question of, okay, is that 20% enough? And is that an excuse not to process them? They're not even doing that at this point. So that's kind of where we are. All right. That's Milligan. So we're not filing a round 4 at this point. And I don't see, unless the judge says, no, I'm not going to expand the order, we will then have to consider a round 4. All right. I mean, that's kind of the way it is.
Right.
Now, the next case is Tate. Tate is the 01 case. And some of you may have seen today that the judge granted a second amended complaint. That is because there's one guy that was kind of, let's just say he had to be added late. And the judge just added him. That was it. So Tate is ongoing. I am communicating with the government lawyer. Now, I know in your world that means I pick up a phone, he chats with me, he takes care of stuff. That's not what it means in immigration legal world. It means we have an email, and a few days later I hear back from him, and then I write back to him right away, and I don't hear back for a few days because he's not dedicated to this case. He's the lawyer on the case, but he probably has dozens and dozens of other cases. So, and he's got to then communicate to his client, who then have to, at DC, which then has to call the consulates. And so, yes, I know some of you in round 2 of Tate have not been called by the consulate, but others have. So just know we're on top of that. And of course, you can always communicate to Phil and I, because there's not that many of you guys. And we're working with that. All right. So there's that. Next case would be, what's the next case? Well, just briefly, the Department of Labor case, we have filed an amended complaint. This is the wage rule. If any of you wage rule people out there, we are challenging the new wage rule, which is just as illegal as the last wage rule for the exact same reasons. The last wage rule was illegal. And that's going to be a little bit more slow moving. It's no longer a priority. It's not a preliminary injunction case, at least not yet. So that's kind of where we are on that issue. I know. What else? We've got something else going on.
I just checked my email, and I did see that for the South Africans who've been getting those strange emails, that the government lawyer is acting on that to try and resolve that issue. So if anybody from South Africa is on this, that's a positive development.
I'm gonna try a different shade option here. Hold on. Daylight savings time needs to come so it can all be during the daylight. Oh, there we go. That's much better, right? Oh, yes. Thank you. That's much better. Now I'll have to keep my. I was thinking earlier, wonder how high the sun's going to be today at 6 o'clock. Now we know. So let's see. Tate, Milligan, Anunciato, Department of Labor. There was another case I wanted to talk about today. Aker. How can I forget Aker and Gomez? Oh my goodness. So we have the government wanted 3 weeks more to respond to the motion for summary judgment, which would give them like 9 weeks to respond to our motion for summary judgment. It was a ridiculous request. And we told the judge it was a ridiculous request. In fact, all three lawyer teams were like, it's a ridiculous request. And so what happened? Anybody have a baby I can split? Get the baby in here. I'm going to split that baby. And so he gave them an extra week, which means reply is due an extra week later, which means the status report is now in April, and he hasn't even set a hearing in the case yet. And he said, I'll set a hearing when the court's calendar allows for it or something like that. So if you are a Gomez plaintiff or an Acker plaintiff in DV 2020 and you're waiting on the 9,095, or what we're fighting for, all 40,000 visas that aren't adjudicated, you're going to wait a little longer. And my guess is May. Now, keep in mind, the problem with this, when we win, and we will win this case, in May, what happens? Well, they got to do all the DV 2021 cases, which they're going to be, I think by then we will have a decision from Judge Seaborg. 2, they will have to do all the DV 2020 cases. They have all these K1 cases they got to get done, and they got to do the straight up family cases. They're going to have to figure out a way to do a lot more work than they're currently doing. I mean, it is and again, this is the kind of things we're going to share with the judge so that he's fully aware that, delaying on the decision of stuff that's been pending in front of him since a couple months, it really has long-term consequences for people coming in. We do, however, love the messages, the emails, the Twitter tagging of the people entering the country on your green cards. It's just totally awesome. It's just welcome home, man. Welcome home. And all of you are going to get there. We're going to work on all of you for this. But thank you. It's an honor to serve you to make this happen in Aker and Gomez. It's just really delightful. And again, before anybody asks, yes, we're working on more than 9,095 visas, okay? As we say every single week. Let's take a look at some of the questions here. Let's see, Manila. Everybody, Manila's coming up. Aaron, what about Manila? Aaron doesn't have Manila.
Greg's our Manila expert, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Manila remains a problem, all right? But again, people have been called. We haven't gotten this week's report from the government, but I know I've heard at least one person I've heard been called for an interview. And Manila may be treating them in order by gate. We don't know because we're not getting that level of feedback. Because I'm sure that the government lawyer is not speaking to the immigrant visa chief in Manila. He's going through his client, the lawyers at the Department of State. But at a certain point, when we get back on the horn and have an actual call with Judge Boasberg, this is going to come up. said, Judge, they haven't done anything in this couple of consulates. Almost all the other consulates in Milligan too are, I think, pretty good at this point. There may be one Montreal straggler. And then round 3 there, we don't have a this week update. We'll probably have that next Monday about where people are in the case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at my spreadsheet on round 2, which is not complete, and I have not seen any positive news coming out of Manila for anybody.
No.
In quite a while.
Yeah. So again, it's at the top of mind. We're not forgetting about it. And if we have news, we will give you news. We'll reach out to the Manila plaintiffs. We'll say, here's what we heard. This is good news. If you heard no news, this means we don't have any news. So we're not going to share nothing, but we will share when we have information. Just one last thing, by the way, Aker plaintiffs. All Aker plaintiffs have received an email today or Monday over the weekend. You must tell us that you've entered the country, because we're going to start dismissing you from that case. You're in the country, you're no longer in the case. We need to know who's left and why. So please, please, please answer those emails ASAP for us. All right. What can Brazilians do on K1s? Well, if you're a plaintiff, you're getting interviewed. The round 2 ones, I think, have almost all been scheduled, and we're working on round 3 in Rio. So that's kind of where we are with that. All right. Eli brings up a good question. I know that you've seen this too, Greg. Some consulates just literally, they're closed. I got one from Vilnius for DV 2020. We're closed. Sorry. Have a nice day. This, again, something we mentioned earlier when we were doing the update, is we will bring this up to the judge and say, look, Belarus.
Can I say something about Rio before we move on?
Oh, sure.
We did get a couple of updates from people today with some movement in Rio. A couple of people filled out forms saying that they have had their cases changed, their status changed to being in transit from NVC to the consulate, and it looks like it's not across the board, but it's not a Manila. Was
that a round 3, Greg?
These are round 3 people.
All right. So here's one thing we learned: round 3 people in Brazil. Apparently, they use mules to transfer the files from the National Visa Center to Rio. Apparently, they never heard of Federal Express, which gets it there the next day or the day after. I mean, we learned that from round 2. It's in transit. And like a week later, it's still in transit. It's like, where is this file? What mules are you using? Maybe it's carrier pigeon, 1 page at a time they're sending. I don't know what they're doing. So again, we are aware, and you're welcome again to update the spreadsheet about consulate closures. We don't track all 200 and...
The spreadsheet means to fill out the update form, and it enters into our spreadsheet.
All right. If you're emailing the National Visa Center, I would use Expedite, because you're Milligan plaintiffs. Expedite. They should be expediting these cases. Kristen, again, for Milligan, we're not filing a class action. We're asking for a universal injunction. It's easier. It's easier. All right. They both have the same end result. Somebody just asked, this is a good question for those of you kind of going between cases. The Kentucky Consular Center does diversity lottery cases.
Only DV.
Only. That's it. And why do they do that in Kentucky? Greg, you happen to know?
Kyle Rogers.
Oh, that's right. Senator Rogers. It's called pork, everybody. It's called pork. And the National Visa Center does all non-immigrant immigrant visas. So that's in Vermont.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. So it's, again, strong senators back in the day that made that happen. But you got to put them somewhere, right? Nicholas Harvey, around 3 of them, says they don't have our case from the USCIS. Well, yeah. Well, they should have a case number.
Yeah, so you can get your case number if you call them. It's on most people that I know. A couple of people have told me that they don't have it in the system yet, but almost every time it's really fast after USCIS approves that they have a case number in their system, even if you haven't gotten notified. So you can call them. And the tip, which we've given before, is call late in their workday, which is like
after this.
Yeah, they work till like 10 o'clock at night. It's a little surprising for government. So call them in their last 2 hours that they're open, and your wait time will be a lot shorter.
Yeah. All right. Francisco asked the question. Maybe I should ask Britt Simon. I love Britt Simon. Honestly, I don't know if they take medicals from a third country. I just literally, off the top of my head, I'm sure I could research that. Aaron says no.
No, I'm saying no.
Yeah, they have to. They're really specific at the consulates about who they approve for that kind of thing.
Now, why is that, Greg? I have a theory on that. I'd
like to hear your theory because I've never thought about it.
Because they know there's only a few doctors. There's usually 1, 2, or 3 doctors. So they know them. So they tell them things to look for. For example, in Ciudad Juarez, they say, tell us about all the tattoos that you see when they get them stripped naked in front of you. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And each consulate tells their guys different things. Remember, anything you tell a doctor at that interview is not protected by the mythical doctor-client privilege in the United States. They will tell the consulate anything they think is relevant that you tell them. So they ask, have you used drugs? Oh, not recently. Not recently.
They'll ask you questions about your alcohol consumption so they can call
exactly.
you habitual drunkard.
I only drink a bottle of wine a day. It's really nothing. Which for some of you is like, that's it? That's all you drink? That's cool. Estoy esperando 5 meses, esperando por el visto bueno de mis documentos de KCC. This is Merendi. She's at DV 2021. We know that the KCC has basically not been working. No han estado trabajando, Merendi. Pero ya otra vez es una cosa que vamos a mencionar al juez, que no están preparando para hacer todas las visas. Y vamos a ver lo que pasa con el juez Seaberg. We'll tell the judge the KCC hasn't been working. They haven't been doing these cases. I don't know what they've been doing if they haven't been doing DV 2021 cases. But that's it. Oh, Aaron, remember we said we were going to get the list of plaintiffs from Milligan 3? We did an update on.
The question is whether we need to do that now that we know that the consulates have access to the list from the official list.
I think folks would like to have it because they can attach it to their emails. I think it's a level of comfort.
Right. Somebody needs to finish that then.
Yeah, Aaron, can you have somebody work on that?
We're talking about redacting the motion to add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Great. All right. Let's see what else here. What can we do if the KCC doesn't confirm our supported documents? I just answered that question. They haven't been working. And so we're going to ask in our status conference about that as well. Judge, we'd like to know, by the way, the government's position on all our DV 2020 plaintiffs who literally are being told nothing's happening. All right. Round 3, we submitted an address change to the NVC for Madrid instead of London. In this case, he didn't see that. They wait. You can email. I wouldn't wait for the NVC. Contact the NVC and tell me where you want your case sent. I think that's actually quite important to do that, Lisa. And I can't tell you which is better. I would just tell you London's got a lot of cases. So Madrid would probably be where I would go. Again, Greg kind of mentioned this earlier. K1s in South Africa. One thing you have to know: nothing happens immediately. Just because the judge issued an order on Thursday doesn't mean on Friday or Monday they're like, "Yes, sir. How high should we jump?"
You will see movement in South Africa in the next couple of days because of the reach out on that one consulate.
Remember, Johannesburg is a long way away. I mean, it just takes a while for the pigeons to fly there to get them that information. Michael said this: "If when he asked to provide basically K1 visa after asking for an interview." That is not surprising, Michael. You have to understand, and we mentioned this before. Manila believes that every K1 is fraudulent. They do. I'm sorry to tell you that, but they believe that, and they act that way, and so they will ask for all the stuff all over again and up-to-dated stuff. They just do that. It's a unique practice. Well, maybe not totally unique. I think Nigeria is kind of the same way. But you just have to know that this is not an abnormal behavior
for decades.
I mean, this is not new. None of this is new. My fiance would like to submit an inquiry to Senator Rubio. Absolutely. You can absolutely use your senators.
Yeah.
Senator Rubio
it's a good idea to nag members of Congress on this particular issue. They should be aware of it.
Absolutely. And maybe you'll get a Bible quote in return. That would be really awesome. Yeah. That's a little dig at Senator Rubio, who every day puts up a relatively irrelevant Bible quote, some of which are wildly ironic, and I can't tell whether that's on or not.
You are welcome to contact them politely on social media. Every time they post on Twitter or whatever they do, Facebook, any places that give the opportunity, it has worked. And Ciudad Juarez is the classic example of that in this case, where there were some plaintiffs, round one plaintiffs, who were very polite but relentless in terms of using the opportunity to comment on social media every chance they got. And
on the ambassador's personal Twitter, by the way.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. They actually got responses and a very nice note once they got in the country. It actually worked. So, again, be polite and, but be firm. I like this because it's a shared frustration that we have. Why don't students? Well, first of all, Joe, one thing you have to understand, when the U.S. government does something that seems unusual to you, you have to ask this question. So you'll learn as you become a permanent resident citizen. Follow the money. Follow the money.
The only thing I have to say about that, though, is this one of the things that's been really unfortunate about the last couple of years is how these policies have caused immigrants to turn against immigrants.
Yes.
And we see a lot of that. I see people saying, why do the family people, when I'm making these when I'm making these great contributions, or why does, this group get it and that group doesn't get it on there? And it's all the government's fault. It's not the students' fault or the business people or anybody else. And so it's, the government needs to solve this problem. And you don't need to start thinking of these groups as your enemy here. The enemy here is are the people at the State Department who refuse to do their job.
Oh, there you go. It's not their fault. But still, follow the money. That's why. Follow the money. Somebody asked about separate lawsuits. We, in fact, are, looks like, preparing a lawsuit against a specific consulate in the Middle East where there are a good number of plaintiffs. We are not exploring anything against Frankfurt because Frankfurt, up until now, has been good. So I would just...
It'll be these suits will be focused on the problem consulates.
Right. And Frankfurt is just not a problem consulate. I mean, to you, it obviously is, but I think you just got to give it a little bit. The other problem is, and this actually was borne out, by the way, in today's, what the government said in the Anunciato filing. March 31st is coming up. It's the same thing they said with, the other bans, right? Now, I personally think Biden's going to extend the bans, but they're saying, look, it's 3 weeks. 3 weeks. We can't even get to your NIE in 3 weeks. All right.
We did have somebody at Frankfurt today in round 3 already get it announced that they were moving their case from MVC to the consulate.
There you go. So it's happening. It's not always fast as we would like it to be. Let's see what other questions on here. Shlomo asked this question. So we're good or not? Shlomo, we're good. I don't know what we're good about, but we're good. That's like a New York thing. We're good? We're good. All right. Eric, this is our new final place for our updates. It just took us a while to learn how to stream it to YouTube.
YouTube is such a pain to set up a channel where you can do
multiple people, because their own live stream is for an individual, but not multiple people. So
we figured it out, but
so it's here.
Chuck and I were like on sharing a screen for like an hour a couple days ago, trying to figure this out. It was not easy. Look who it is!
What's up, Joseph?
Oh, hi. I've been here for a while, just listening.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
No problem.
We covered for you. All right. Any update on H-4EAD? Yes, I will give you an update. The American Immigration Lawyers Association will likely be filing on this shortly. All right. and that will be for everybody's relief. Yes, we're fully aware people are losing their jobs. It's absolutely outrageous. Again, Trump caused this, and Biden hasn't fixed it yet. You can't. I don't want to cut anybody's slack. But the reality is, literally, Trump destroyed the literal system. I mean, he just sabotaged and destroyed the system. And so we cheer every victory, like the TPS today for Venezuelans. Hopefully, we'll get the nomination on USCIS director here shortly, and they can start adding people into the agency. Actually, I've heard one complaint I've heard about the Biden administration is the personnel office has been.
They're not hiring fast.
Have you heard that too?
Yeah.
And that's the same complaint about the Trump administration. Same complaint. It was just, but they have competent people apparently running the Biden one, but they're slow. They just had incompetent people, like literal college students running the Trump one. Biden, and it may go back to Obama too. I can't recall the personnel office at the time. I just think it's tough stuff to do. All right. Erica got her V. Round 2 played going to be last week. Go to Guatemala for 4 days. Erica, I heard Guatemala is awesome. If we get an exemption, that'd be awesome. But enjoy Guatemala. Go see Tikal. Go by the route. There's so much stuff to do in Guatemala. It's an awesome country. Very poor, but it's an awesome country. Oh, round 3, they transferred all of us from the NBC to Rio. Congrats, like that. Any free advice for the K1 interview? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. That's always a good advice. All right. I emailed the NBC several times by accident. Can have consequences.
No, don't worry.
You're fine. They'll ignore all of them equally. You're just fine there. Let's see. Amsterdam is still a little slow. We talked about that. Round 3. Well, we know, Jeff, if you recall, one round 3 person did get an interview. We mentioned that last week. And Jeff has them on the update list. So it's just that it's not like every day, every week, or every day like clockwork, we get an update from the government. It doesn't work that way. But Jeff's on top of it. Don't worry.
The last update from Amsterdam. There was
I have a little update on Amsterdam too.
This one is around. To see, there's no. I can't tell from this whether it's round 2 or round 1. But there was somebody processed for a visa on January 26th.
I think that was round 2.
I had somebody today at Amsterdam told me that the Amsterdam had told them that they are awaiting confirmation of updated Milligan plaintiffs, the list, and that they will hear from them.
Well, at least I know about Milligan. That's a good sign. Now, here's a question for Jeff. When is Attorney Jeff going to submit that request? I mean, really, Jeff, it has been 2 entire work days.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, really, come on.
It is in the works. Our hope is to submit it this week.
There you go.
Jennifer Howard, who I don't know if she's on the call, but Jennifer Howard is working on it, and hopefully we'll have it this week.
Aaron, I don't know why you're on the call twice, Aaron, but your phone called me.
I'm on twice, sorry, because I have to step out in a minute, so I still want to be listening.
Okay, all right. So there you go. I can remove you from that then. So here we go. All right. Let's see. All right, London folks, in the process of scheduling your case. No, I don't think it's a holding email, but we know that there's no interviews left in London, physical interviews left in March, based upon the last update that we saw about when they're scheduling people. So I'm going to assume those interviews are going to be in April.
Yeah, round 1 plaintiffs are entering. Round 2 round 2 plaintiffs are entering.
Yeah, so they're working on it. All right. I love this. I'm not asking for myself. It's not for me. It's a friend. It's for a friend. If Judge Seaborg approves because of your claims, Ben, will you add plaintiffs? I don't know. It depends whether he keeps the class. But I promise you, Greg has a list. Email Greg. He will put you on the list. We have a website to add, Greg. or is it just email Greg, put it be an Anunciato plaintiff if we need to?
The Anunciato plaintiffs, I have them all,
Okay.
all the email addresses saved.
Okay. All right. Is there any problem? Well, I don't know what consulate you're at, so I wouldn't book a medical appointment until you have an appointment. Really. Round one Milligan update. Jeff, we have how many? There can't be hardly anybody left.
Let me see. We had at the time of the status update, which was what, last week?
I think there was 6.
We had 6 left, correct. And most of them were a couple of Montreal, a couple of Rio, and a couple of Manila.
Yeah, it was 1 Montreal, I think, or something like that.
2 Montreal.
All right. So is a tonsillectomy good enough for an NIE?
I would try any medical thing. I mean, you have nothing to lose by trying it.
Humanitarian could cover a lot of things.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Do I know why Turkey is not? Well, it's not just Turkey. All right. I don't know why. Other than what I explained earlier in the video. So go back and take a look at that, and you can look at Chuck's theory on this. What happens if you get your visa Milligan, can't afford the 14-day travel quarantine? We just sit and wait, hope the visa doesn't expire for the travel is listed. Good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really risky because your visa is only going to be good for 6 months, right? Your K1 is it what, 6 months?
I think it's only 90 days. Maybe it's 6 months. For some reason, I thought, it's 90 days once you get in, you got to get married.
Yeah, I think the visa itself is good for 6 months. So you're taking a risk that, during that 6 months, everything is going to be back to normal and the proclamations are going to be lifted. That's a big risk.
Now,
but the answer is you don't have to go quarantine if you want to wait and see what happens.
Now, my theory, I have a theory on the Schengen ban. I think he will extend it. I think it'll be modified somewhat. And I think it will go through May. Because remember, we should be herd immunity by the end of May. He's going to hit 100. He said 100 days for 100 million vaccines. He's going to hit that this week. And Jeff just got his. Jeff recently turned 65.
Round 1. I got my round 1.
Hit 65. You could get the vaccine. And Jeff's not 65. Jeff is turning 50 this year, though. I just learned. That's totally.
I am. It's a big one.
Okay, there's a WhatsApp group. So that's good. Round 3. See, magic happens. All right.
Yeah, good.
Oh, Shlomo, come on. Europe Lives Matter. Give me a break, man. Give me a break. Let's see what we got. Here we go. Here's a Paris one for the Milligan. If you don't have an interview, we'll contact you shortly. See, that's great.
Oh, I read that wrong. I thought it said if you do not already have an interview, date a member of our unit.
The comma, the power of the comma. Yes, Eli, we know Peru is not processing. Virtually no countries are. Look at the beginning of the case when I talked about it in our meeting next week with Judge Seaborg. That will be coming up, okay? Judge Seaborg will not be issuing a final judgment on March 15th. It is a status conference. Then we go from there. So, no, we're not going to get a final order on that date. And now I don't know when it will be. All right. Let's see. If you haven't gotten an email from the consulate, Jeff, what did we say about emailing?
Should I call the NBC? Yes, but you have to. What we recommend is that if you're going to send emails, don't send separate emails to the NVC and the consulate. Send them both, right? So email the consulate, immigrant visa unit, email the NVC, and ask them the questions. That way they don't point fingers at each other and say, we're waiting for the consulate's going to say we're waiting for NVC to say that send the file, and NVC is going to say we're waiting for post to request the file. So copy them both.
All right, a judge cannot order one consulate out of 250 to process cases, and this case is not about that unless your case is about that consulate, like the one we're going to be doing soon. What Judge Seaborg is looking at is the overall picture. And in a general order, issue these visas, figure it out. He's not going to get in to the operations of an individual embassy. That's just literally not going to happen on any case ever.
Nor do we really want, we don't want that kind of specific relief, because the more specific we are about what we ask for and what the judge orders, the more likely the government is to push back on that. It's better for there to be a broad order for the concepts to interpret, in the way that they want to.
Yeah.
And then if they're not doing a good job, that's when we can push back.
All right. Somebody wanted to know if you want some Bavarian beer when they get to the United States.
I want some Bavarian beer right now.
I bet you do. Okay. Let's see. Jennifer, we've talked about this earlier, but you've asked it a couple of times. That request is going to go to the judge hopefully this week, and then within probably 30 days, because again, government gets to respond, we have to have a hearing, so it's probably at least a month away on that. All right. All right. Let's see. Going through some of these questions. Here's David that wants to bring you the Bavarian beer. Thank you, David. Jeff, I don't drink beer, so I don't.
You can send me and Aaron the rest of Chuck's.
Yeah. This is a question, again, everybody knows that the Department of State is not processing visas as they have in previous years for DV cases. If he reserved all 55,000, that means they will have to issue them now. But he's not going to order them to move the visa bulletin. That will be up to their discretion. But again, this is something we will be working on throughout this process. Okay. All right. Somebody wants to know about our lobbying on DC, and that's not anybody else but me, Tolga. You have asked me that question by email, and I have responded to you. And you've also asked me on Twitter, and I've responded to you. So I'm not going to respond to you now because you keep asking the question. But for everybody else, we're working on it. All right. Greg, by the way, is an expert lobbyer. And Greg, how easy is it to get Congress to do something you want them to do?
Oh, yeah, they're all over it.
Yeah.
Just to let people know, we have not had a pure immigration bill move its way through committee and be signed by the president in 16 years. Mm-hmm. So don't count on it.
We're going to have to get it attached to something else. All right. Round 3, double back. We move forward. Well, I don't think that's like covering the whole. I think it's a good song.
That's really good news out of Dublin.
From Dublin, I would take that and run. That's actually a good thing. Let's see here. Oyenke, look back earlier. Somebody told Paris that they were contacted today, so that's a good sign. Bring me something from Peru, Ellie. Look, some chocolates de la Ibérica is suficiente para mí. Okay. All right. And the last one here, the government will approve the increase in visas, what the maximum can do to reach 2020. The government doesn't approve anything. Congress is the one that increases visas. And finally, Paris. If you're in Paris, doctor would be good for 6 months. Again, that's just against our advice, but you do what you want to do. Talk to your lawyer about the case. All right, everybody, that's it for this week with questions. It's been awesome. Next week, bat channel, different bat time, because we have a hearing in Anunciato at 6. You can be waiting on the page at about 7, and if we're done, we're done, and we'll be there at 7. Otherwise, we'll be on as soon as we get done with the Anunciato hearing. All right? So thank you, everybody. Jeff, don't hang up yet. We'll see you guys next week.